And we're back for part 2 of the Betoota Talks interview with Danny Weidler. It's obviously a flowing conversation last week, and we get straight back into it this week. Danny's talking about, of course, the differences and I guess the rivalries that exist in the NRL media landscape. If you're not a footy fan, I do think this is still interesting to kind of observe the organism of rugby league and just how, you know, all these moving parts manage to function. It's a rapidly expanding game, and Danny has been there since the 90s, since the Super League War. He's as he said in the first part of the interview, you know, he did his time at Wollongong Showgrounds chasing yarns about the Super League War with John Rebo, and then of course he's now, you know, he's at the press conferences. He's got the contact list. He's the person that people call first, and he's one of the journos that break the story first. We really appreciate you know, his generosity, and we hope to do this again next year. But for now, listen to the second half, and you know, there's some spicy yarns in here. He gave us a bit, which is interesting because we're playing the role of the NRL journo in a way. Anyway, that's enough from me. Back in the day, there was this thing where you kind of had rugby league pundits kind of crossed over with political shock jocks.
Yeah,
that was a big thing. So you kind of had the shock jock, but it was kind of isolated to radio. And in recent years, we've seen this thing where there's rugby league shock jocks, and that's all they talk about: rugby league and rugby league culture wars and stuff. And it's not necessarily talking about politics, but it's talking about the politics of sport.
Yeah.
And that has created a new breed of I guess media personality in your game, and some of them it's been kind of astonishing to watch. And you've reported on this, the downfall.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
The downfall of some of these blokes, where some of the biggest scandals in rugby league the last few years have been the blokes who are meant to be breaking it.
Yeah.
What's the go there? What is happening? I mean, you with everything you've explained, you've obviously had to live a fairly you know, moderate, kind of well-behaved lifestyle. You don't. Willie Mason's always said this.
I'm not an angel, though. Like, I mean, people like Willie says I was nothing. I mean,
no, but Willie did say you don't like mixing in with the boys, and I think that's important. Yeah.
When I was younger, and I know I'll get to the Paul Kents and the James Hoopers in a second. I know where you're going.
That I alluded to.
When I was younger, like. So when you're making contacts in the sport, I came into it cold, right? So I didn't have a family history like Caro might have, you know. So you'd get your contacts by going to games, interviewing players there, getting their numbers, growing a contact base that way, ringing clubs saying, listen, I need to interview you. And you eventually build up a contact book. I've still got my first contact book at home, which is falling to bits, and it's got a stack of like hundreds and hundreds of numbers, and you that's your, I guess, your currency and your worth in the game if you've got a good contact book. And I feel like I can ring a lot of people from 30 years ago to this day, you know, and they'll take my call. So you get information, and I used to go out sometimes with the players when I was younger because they were my age. I don't, like, there was a club. I remember one night I was at a club called Archie's, which is in Bondi Junction. It's long gone, right? And I was out with I was out with the Roosters. It was one of those clubs where your feet would stick to the floor when you walked in. It was, and I remember I was out with the Roosters boys, and they were pretty loose. And there was one night where, I won't name the names, but 3 or 4 of them got in a fight, and they broke a wall down in the nightclub by throwing each other into the wall or running into the wall, and the wall collapsed. Now that would have, again, been but I was there. So that's when I figured, okay, I can't be there.
It's kind of hard to report on that if
I can't be
party
there.
to it.
I can't be there. So I can't, and I'm a non-drinker. I don't do drugs. I'm a pretty boring guy generally. But like, I'm not, as Willie says, I'm not a perfect. Like, I hate the idea that I'm some sort of
squeaky clean.
That's bullshit. You know? Like, nobody's squeaky clean. Nobody's perfect.
Nobody who's got anything to do with rugby league is squeaky clean.
That's right. But I just don't go out on benders or take mountains of drugs,
which 50-something-year-old blokes seem to do nowadays.
Which is weird.
What's going on?
So you want me to get to? Okay. So
I mean, you're the one breaking these yarns, and again, because you you have your own life outside of the sport,
Yeah.
which apparently seems to be a good way of finding peace.
Yeah.
You're not doing this shit, but yeah, as we said before, some of the biggest scandals in rugby league the last couple of years have been blokes in your game.
Yeah, look, so obviously let's start with Paul Kent.
Mm-hmm.
He was a colleague of mine. I used to sit next to him at the Sun Herald. I always admired his writing. I thought he was a good opinion-based writer. Quite a shy guy as well, to be honest with you. And I think that he was thrust into a role where he didn't have to be somebody else because he's always had a strong opinion, but I didn't see it. Again, it's not my place to tell people who they are, but I felt like he was making himself come out of his comfort zone a lot. And I think that takes a toll if you're in this public place where you have to criticize. He was the key to that show.
Yeah.
He carried that show with his strong views. I sometimes agreed with him, sometimes didn't. And I feel like that pressure eventually can get to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I know he was drinking too much. It showed. I think in his displays on air, I think that he'd had a number of other things going on in his life, which I'm not going to judge him on because I wasn't there for those. But when it all came crashing down, the ultimate act was the tree at outside Toddy's.
Yeah.
And he'd had 21 beers.
Yeah.
And he called a bloke doghead who was walking past, who I've talked to that bloke and interviewed that guy who said he didn't say that.
Yeah.
There were other people there and he went for this guy, and it was actually pretty sad. I mean, I know we can laugh at it, or people can laugh at it, but it was actually to watch a 54-year-old guy rolling over in the gutter, smashing his head into a tree. It could have been really bad.
Yeah.
And he's managed to start up his own podcast, which is great. And no one, I don't want him to never have a career. No one would want that. And I think at his core, he's an okay guy, just a different guy to me.
Yeah.
And I think that the way he was put out there by that network, and I don't know whether he was given the right level of support and care. Yeah. They'd know better than I would, but from and the way that he ended up taking action against News Corp as well at the end of it suggests to me that there's more going on.
Yeah.
Look, it was great fodder for you guys, wasn't it? Like you got plenty.
Well, it was one of those things where it was like every now and then Ray Hadley would find himself in trouble, and the footballers, you're speaking to. It becomes a pressure valve for footballers who've been, had the moral puritanism placed upon them.
Yeah,
and their fans as well. So there was this kind of primal scream that happens when something like that happens.
So many footballers messaged me after that.
Yeah.
When are you going to write about that? Why aren't you pressuring? You should be saying something about that.
Yeah.
And I did.
Yeah.
I think I was the only one who really, in the mainstream football media, who actually documented it and reported it in a big way and continue to follow it up, because I was getting hammered either on text messages or by direct messages on Twitter from people in the public, but also NRL players saying, if that was me, you'd be doing this to me, or like old players who I've given a hard time to, like saying, well, how come you're not? Well, I did. Yeah. And, again, but I understand why News Corp didn't, because he was involved in a case with them. He worked for them. I get all that.
Yeah.
James Hooper, again, a sad, the fact that it ended with him, 0.253 over the limit in a car.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. That's bad for him and his family.
Pretty bad for a community as well, right? That's dangerous.
That's awful. You can't. Yeah, but look, it's just lucky that nothing more happened.
Yeah.
And I'd reported on a few things James had been doing. I'd been to Vegas with him on an NRL, let's call it a fact-finding mission. You can call it what you want. That was before the Vegas kicked off, and that was when they were trying to sell it to the Americans. And he missed interview opportunities. He missed a flight. Yeah. That largely was unreported. But then he went for a second, another trip this year. Sorry, he didn't file a story.
Yeah.
And again, at the time, I thought let it slide, but then it all escalated. And, so it ended up.
Do you think there's a bit of almost a celebrityification of these guys. Like, they get put up in the pedestal in terms of they're presenting on these shows. They've got to have hot takes, but there's also the social media element, people recognizing them out and about and wanting to have beers, and all of a sudden it kind of just spirals and spirals and they get caught up in it.
Look, the players are the celebrities. Like, they're and that's how it should be. They're the superstars. When you become a journo who's on TV, like, you do, like, they do get recognised, these guys, and they do get. There is an element of that, I'd say.
And it's not happening as like a 19 or 20-year-old bloke where there are people around them looking out for him saying, pull your head in, do all that.
Yeah.
It's happening later on in life.
Or it's something you grow up with, as a footballer. You grow up with this thing. Your formative years are spent getting used to being a celebrity, and then that can follow you for the rest of your life, and you probably develop an immunity to it in many ways. When I look at someone like Mal Meninga walking through the fruit markets in Brisbane, he knows how to handle himself in that space. But
you watch a footballer. I mean, like, I'm talking proper, like, big. They get absolutely swamped. Yeah. Like, when I'm with the Origin team, they can't walk a metre somewhere without photo. This, that. Nathan Cleary, you just see what, and he's so good at he's a calm head. He does everything.
And his mates, I've met him out with his mates, and his mates that aren't footballers get it.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Let's not end up in those situations. If there's a line to a nightclub, let's not go into it because people are going to see us lining up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas I think if that happens to you at 55, you're gonna really struggle with that kind of gear change.
I think it goes back to your personal life and how the way you've carried yourself in your personal life for a long time before that. But there is a pressure with being those. I wouldn't want to do. I don't think I'd like to be that person on that 360 show who is yelling and screaming.
Yeah,
I don't know how you do that, and then and you're making, like, I make enough enemies with things I write because I'm trying to do stories largely based on fact, but then there's opinion, which that's where what's what these guys are doing a lot of the time. They're offering their opinion and their views. I don't think that the general public cares about my opinion on how to play football or a football team. I think they care about Phil Gould's or Andrew Johns' opinion or Cooper Cronk's opinion or Matthew John, those sort of guys. I think that they're the ones whose opinions matter. Pundit
versus
journo. Whereas our job, which is where they go away from a little bit on other shows, which is what they're paid to do. Our job is to try and provide the information, and potentially what's going to happen next. And we don't always get it right, but that's what our strength should be, is providing information rather than providing a view on how the Raiders are going to beat the Bulldogs and why Lockie Galvin's no good, or why, I think that can be for the experts, for the journos. Provide the facts. If there's stats and things like that back it up, good. If there's clear instances on the field where he's done something, or if teammates are yapping at him or in the background, or they're not, that's our job to report that.
Yeah.
Not, I don't think we should tell Lockie Galvin how to play football, for instance.
Yeah.
But I might be a bit different.
Is there an element though of also wanting to be one of the boys that happens with some of these journos when
I don't know. I don't.
You made it clear in your 20s when you saw some roosters tackle each other through a wall in a nightclub.
Yeah.
For me.
I know that when I get the sack, which happens in TV, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
That the day after, I might get a few phone calls from people I talk to on a regular basis. 3 weeks later, it's going to be my mates who I've known since I was 5 years old, who are going to be the ones who will be talking to me.
Yeah.
And my family or my kids, they're the ones who will be talking. The high flyers that you talk to, they talk to you for a reason.
Yeah.
Because they want information out there, not always with their fingerprints on it. And they're going to be your friends while you're useful.
Yeah. And
to think otherwise, to think that, I'm chummy, that's not how I operate. I know that, I get on well with a lot of guys when I see them, but I'm not going to dinner with them.
Yeah.
They're not. Very few of them are ever coming to my house.
They're not coming around. You're not going fishing with them.
No, it's not me. Look, like funny stories. Like back in the day, Chris Walker used to live around the corner from me, and lovely guy, Chris Walker, right? Like one of my favourite.
Yeah. Eccentric.
But it got to the point where I'd come home from work, and my wife would say to me at the time, "Oh, there's a couple of people sitting here waiting for you." It was Kate Ritchie and Chris Walker sitting on the couch just wanting to have a chat. Like, and one time, Chris probably won't remind me telling this story now. He said, "Oh, mate, I've had a shocker. I've smashed my car into the tree." I said, "All right, yeah. What do you want me to do about it?" So I don't want you to report on it. I said, "Okay." He said, "Do you mind if I park it out the front of your place so that no one sees it out the front of my place?" So he left his smashed car out the front of my house, so no one would see it out the front of. I don't know how they put two and two together. And his smashed car's out. Why is his car here? I remember the Asada story. Remember all that drama?
The darkest day in sport.
That. I remember what a confronting. Am I let?
Go.
Confronting story it was to cover. Because all of a sudden we're watching this press conference. I didn't know what a peptide was.
Yeah.
I'm going, what the hell's going on? What is this? Yeah. Like, is the sporting world about to be tipped on its head? And I remember, I don't remember the name of the ABC reporter who got the first interview with Stephen Dank, but she did a great job doing that. And I remember somehow I got into the area where he was talking, and I thought, this guy is the center of this story. And I don't know who he is. I don't know anything about him. Yeah. And I've got to somehow, I don't know where else to get information. It was a really hard story to cover. So a
lot of it had come from government, right?
Government the sporting bodies. And I don't have great contacts in there. That's not my contacts are better off people I know. People I'm a one-on-one. I can get information. So I went up to Dank and his lawyer, and I went for endless coffees with him.
Yeah.
Just to try and get information. And I actually...
What is a peptide, Steve?
Yeah, and it was a weird time.
Yeah.
But it got to the point where I knew what coffee he ordered. Yeah. I knew... He came to my house a few times. He would drink orange juice sitting in my lounge room, talking about everything that was going on. He would show me pictures of his favourite cat, him with his cat. I knew everything about his life. I don't know whether... I have to say, I got quite a few stories as a result of that relationship. I got to the point where my kids would be in the back of the car, and the name comes up on the screen, Stephen Dank, and my kids would say, "Oh no, not the Dankster," and because he's the rudest man in the world because he used to swear a lot.
Oh right.
So he'd be swearing.
Kids are young.
I'd say, "Stephen, I've got kids in my car." Oh. Fuck, there's a fuck. I say, it means don't swear in front of my kids. And it was, and then he just disappeared in the end. I
haven't heard from him.
One day
What do you see his role in that whole thing? I think it's fair to say that the darkest day in Australian sport wasn't exactly the darkest day in Australian sport.
He was of the view that he could improve footballers through certain substances. Yeah. And he thought they were legal in his mind.
Yeah, because in his mind, he thinks he was hung out to dry by the AFL, right?
Yeah. But look,
what do you reckon about those?
It affected a lot of families, a lot of kids.
Sandor Earl, what was that? Did he cop it?
He was back. I don't want to get us sued, but I think he was done for. Wasn't it transporting?
Yeah.
And Shandor hated me as a result of it.
Yeah.
Because I went to him, I reported, I broke I remember, and he was off me.
Yeah.
But then years later, he came around and he said, "Okay, well." Stuff happened, right?
Yeah.
And he seems like a nice enough guy, and I don't think he was. I think he copped a hard time about it all. A lot of people did a lot of things that they shouldn't have, and he was one of the. He was one of the worst punished. Put it that way.
He was the fall guy.
Almost, in a lot of ways. I mean, Dank. I don't know. I think he's in some sort of trouble somewhere.
Yeah.
I haven't heard from him for years, but one of the most famous times I remember. I get up early, right? I remember waking up bleary-eyed to a text message. "Son, I've just been shot." Oh, what is he talking? He got shot by someone. I said, "Oh, can I?" And I wrote back, "Are you okay? Are you in hospital? Can I report this?" "Oh yeah, sure." So I remember Today's Show or somewhere I gave them the information. Stephen Dank's been shot in Melbourne. It was full on.
He was shot.
He was shot. Yeah, he was shot. I don't.
Do we figure out who that was?
I don't know. Could have been anyone.
Essendon fan,
Could have been anyone. But that happened. Like that's some of the weird things as a journo that you get message, like you form relationships with people, and I got quite a number of stories out of that, and I don't know if I was always told the truth.
Yeah,
I don't know. I've got mountains of text messages which would be, if I ever did something with them, be quite intense for the people on the other end.
Yeah, so, compromising.
Yeah.
Do you? Couple of things in terms of maybe the happiest story you remember reading that wasn't your own, whether it was the photo of a lady of entertainment on Buzz Rothfield's lap, or something like that.
We have to go there.
Yeah. Something like that you remember just coming across and going, "That's an incredible story."
So you're saying, what joy do I get out of other people's demise?
Do you get joy out of that sort of stuff? Those guys that you've had long-running battles with, seeing these kind of.
I love this idea of you and Buzz. Your whole career is spent in parallel to each other. Right now, you're good.
We didn't talk for, I reckon, 10 years. Now, like, we will occasionally talk. Like, like he calls me a hatchet man because I call him that in the paper.
Yeah.
I say he's a News Corp hatchet man. He'll send me. He's got a count on how many times I've carved him up in a column. And he rang me the other week. He said, "Mate, it's been 3 whole weeks since I've appeared in your column." I said, "Oh, well, I can put you in this week if you want. I've got this. So leave me out of that." I'm just anyway. So we have I wouldn't call it a friendship. We've got a respect. No, I'm not. I don't remember a particular story which brought me outstanding joy. But I mean, there are some stories where you think, well, that person had it coming to them, right? Gotcha. And I don't really want to be too nasty.
Yeah, no, that's fair. What's the
good
story?
Question, though. Very good question.
The story you're proudest of?
Are
there any particular big ones where you go,
"Yeah, well, you
realise this, to hustle.
This story couldn't have broken without you"?
It's not really maybe that. I think that in a lot of ways, Anthony Mundine really helped my career.
Yep.
He was hated, right? Yeah. Chock is such a nice guy.
Everyone says it. Yeah.
He's a beautiful person. He doesn't say everything right, doesn't do everything right. Like the 9/11 column comment caused enormous grief, like for my family, for me, whatever, for him. But the way that he chose me, or he saw me as a person he could speak to. Like I first met him when he was 15. And I met him at Bill Morty's office where I used to work for a magazine called Big League. And he was just a young guy sitting on the couch. I just remember it because he was with Tony Mundine. Then years later, I was at I was covering a Roosters Dragons game. And I was in the bar at the football stadium after the game. That's when players used to mingle after games. And I was getting contacts, stories, having a mineral water. And Chock doesn't drink either. And he just came up to me and said, "Bro, I've got a story for you." I said, "Oh, yeah, what?" He said, "Laurie Daly, he's running on old legs." I said, "Right, you want to say that?" Because back in that time, there weren't a lot of people saying things. I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, he's running on old legs. I've got him, and Brad Fittler, he's no good either." And I said, "You want me to write that?" "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah." So he gave me these great quotes. And that was, I remember, the first story that, it's not like, it's not a great, it would never have broken without me, but for me, that was a story that led to my career sort of taking off a little bit, because I was an okay journo, nothing, nothing flash, but he then chose only to speak to me through all of the drama and all of the rise and all of the boxing and leaving sport and taking off.
Turned you into a boxing journo.
I don't even really like boxing. And took, when he went to America and left the Dragons, walked out and getting photos of him in San Francisco, holding a San Francisco Chronicle when the whole world was looking for him.
Yeah.
And that, and he gave it to me. Yeah. And that, I'm grateful for what he did for me. And I probably, I didn't fall out with him at all, but I kept on telling him to retire from boxing because I didn't want him to be a punch-drunk mess. And he would never listen. So I said, "Chock, I'm not going to keep writing about your stuff, your fights, because I worry about your health." And so he turned to Buzz and he suddenly didn't speak to him for 15 years. And suddenly I was seeing him and that's what I was talking about before, that, I would consider him a friend. Yeah. But even then, he needed to have an outlet for his information. And, but but he led me to other contacts like Sonny Bill. So I got and again, Coda Nasser was a guy who managed all of these people and managed as in really advised. I don't think he got a lot out of it personally.
Yeah.
And he's a figure who a lot of people hate.
Yeah.
But I would consider him a friend.
Yeah. Coda.
He's actually a good guy. He's a lot of work.
Yeah.
He's very different to me.
Yeah.
But I know that he's actually a decent person, and what he did for Sonny's career at the time was a huge story. Remember him walking out?
Yeah. Money Bill,
most hated man in Australia. Worse than this, worse than that. I flew to France to find him and interview him. For me, it was
Toulon.
Correct, good memory. For me, it was an easy story because I knew what was going to happen. But all of the media, the Telegraph were reporting on me at the time as to meetings I was having with Coda. And Coda's not a quiet guy, so they'd overhear, like he'd be screaming his head off in a cafe or at a hotel. F this, F that, F News Corp, F that, F Greenberg. Yeah. And they'd get stories of him talking about that by hearing his conversation, watching our meetings. But eventually I had to get the story with Sonny. And I remember being, he was playing for Toulon, and the NRL sent someone over. I don't remember who it was. It might have been a lawyer. And they were shoving subpoenas through the fence for Sonny to pick up. And I'm standing there watching this happen.
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's pretty wild, right? That doesn't really happen. There's not a story like that. Like the most recent big story like that has been Lockie Galvin.
Yeah.
Yep.
Not on the same level.
Yeah.
But similar hatred.
Yes, the hysterical. It's an interesting thing when people start feeling betrayed by someone's excellence. You know what I mean? That's all Sonny Bill's problem was he was so good they just wanted him.
Yeah. And look, I was, again, thanks to guys like Chock, Coda, I was given a rails run, and like I covered, your Willie Mason's career, and again, I always had a good rapport with Willie, so you pick people who are going to be like potential headline stories. Harder nowadays to get close to people. Harder now because of the barriers put up by media managers.
Well, they have media offices.
Well,
you
used to walk into a dressing room back when I was young, and you'd be in the shower interviewing a bloke.
Yeah.
Now you wait outside and you might get someone to speak to, you might not. Clubs are putting up people. There weren't media offices back then. It's much harder for journos to get closer to players.
Yep.
And the good journos today are the ones who can get closer because, often the best sources of information are the players because they know what's going on.
And getting close to agents is so important as well.
That's true,
right?
yeah.
That's become a thing, I'm imagining.
I did that from the start of my career.
Yeah, right.
And I don't hide from that. Like agents have, again, they've got information about deals and things, and those are the sort of stories that the current day, or the metrics, people like to read those.
Yeah.
And there are journos who do that round really, really well. And they're in with all the agents and in with all the footy managers and that sort of thing. And punters like to know that there's hope for their team, don't they? Like they're going, who are we going to get? Our team sucks. Who are we going to get for next year? And they'll read that. Oh, we might be getting, Lockie Galvin. We might be getting, Tino. Like they're the sort of stories that seem to work for people now.
Now, I've just been watching the Netflix Dallas Cowboys.
Haven't seen it yet.
Series.
I've heard I should watch it.
It's a good one. It's a great look at that time in America and the different archetypes that make a sporting franchise work. You know what I mean? And people from different walks of life coming together. Last Dance was a lot like that too, in the sense that you've got Michael Jordan, the actual epitome of excellence, and you've got these weirdos like Rodman, and then the coach, what was his name? Old Bill.
Jackson.
Phil Jackson. You've got all these different eccentricities and different levels of talent, but also like different work ethics and all these funny stories, American stories that come together. If you could look at one chapter, one team, one group of people, what would you say Australia's last dance is in rugby league?
It's got to be at the moment. It's got to be with Penrith, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know the AFL.
No, I'm talking about rugby league. What is, if you could pick one moment in time, I think we should, I know we're in the midst of something right now at Penrith, so maybe exclude Penrith. Okay. But like, what is, you go, there's a doco in that. Yeah, there's a doco in that.
What team went through a lot of hardship or a lot of Yeah.
Is it that Storm team? I mean, I know
that
would
have been around the salary cap
salary
time.
caps and the drama,
Big figures,
all that sort of
Bellamy,
stuff.
Smith,
Yeah.
All those sort of guys.
Yeah.
It would have been imagine that having a camera when that was all going down.
Yeah.
The chief rat, Brian Waldron.
Yeah.
All
the pyramid press conference.
Yeah, that was. I think I was there for that. Like that was. I spent 2 weeks camped outside Storm headquarters when that was all going on.
Yeah.
I remember the day it all happened. I was at NRL, used to be at where the entertainment quarter is now, and we had cameras at the front, cameras at the back, and we knew something was going down. The week before, I wrote a story about the NRL were looking into a deal that Cameron Smith had done with Fox Sports, saying it wasn't kosher. And that was around. But there was much bigger stuff. Obviously, we didn't know about that was going on before they fessed up and gave them the contracts at home and all that sort of stuff. And I remember being out the back of the NRL with a camera at that point, and we had someone at the front. They did the back door, and one of the Storm guys, the chief financial officer, I was trying to get it. He just shoulder charged me, he dropped me in the ribs, and tried to knock me over. It was like full. I was like bang, and we got a shot, but we didn't get much more. I remember being in a car park, waiting for Ian Schubert all day, lying on the floor because the salary cap auditor was central to this. He'd never spoken, never gave an interview. And I jumped him at the end of the day because he's getting to his car, saying, "Ian," gave us nothing. But we sort of said, "Oh, interview with Ian Schubert," But they were, that would have been a day to have. That would have been a period to have a camera 24/7 on that.
Yeah.
The stress that those individuals were under, the hiding, the lies, the press conferences around News Corp's involvement, the blaming people. I don't know if we ever got to the bottom of it fully.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Is there still a stink there?
I don't know if we ever.
Yeah.
I don't. Like Andrew Webster wrote Cameron Smith's book, and there's still a lot of dislike towards the NRL and David Gallop from those times. Gallop would be a really interesting warts and all, to hear everything he knew and everything he went through at that time. There probably would be a good jump back into that, wouldn't there? Yeah.
Do the Storm, do they feel like hard done by in the sense that other clubs were doing what they were doing and they got caught out, or?
I think there's an element of that, but no one was doing it as well, or as I can't remember the word they used at the time, but it was so contrived and so well thought out and so.
And there was so much unity amongst the playing group,
right?
Like even through that whole scandal, it never felt like anyone particularly broke ranks.
You know what? I reckon the other clubs would have done it as well. Like we remember the Bulldogs one.
Yeah.
I think it was Willie was part of that.
Willie and Kate McClymont.
Yeah. Kate. Yeah. And I remember those days as well. That was intense. But yeah, look, that Storm time. It was. So, because of who owned them, half owned them, because of what a great team they were. I think is that the only time Bellamy's missed the finals?
Yeah.
I think in 22 years of coaching, I don't think I think he's been in the grand final 10 or 11 times.
Yeah.
It's off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's missed the finals more than that time.
Yeah.
Which is just amazing, right? Like for a team in a town where they don't really they're not. Rugby league's not their main game.
Yeah, it's certainly got a base now too. When you look at those turnouts when they do win premierships and stuff, they've established themselves as a Melbourne Rugby League team. Yeah. And so that's probably a big part of that yarn too. Is that they've created this thing, and
you guys should go back and do that.
Yeah. That'll be an interesting one. Who's going to talk? we already got Rebo on camera talking about the Super League, so we'll see.
Yeah, in time, I guess they all talk.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know how much talking Brian Waldron's ever done.
Yeah.
I remember going down to Melbourne to his house at that time and knocking on his door, and I think I got an interview at that time. Again, he didn't say a lot, but we had him talking on camera, which is part of the role of the TV journo. I remember he had this nice house, just knocking. Excuse me, Brian. How's it feel to be the chief rat?
What's the go? Some clubs, right? Penrith of late are run well. Some clubs are run. The only comparison I would look at is like a combination of the brand, the grassroots, and the moving parts, well-oiled machine. The All Blacks in the rugby union is a great example of that. That brand and that whole institution's run so well. And we've had different versions of that. Back in the day, I'd say the Broncos had a bit of that.
Yeah.
Melbourne Storm have had that basically since they started, and right now it's Penrith. Who would you say are the opposite to that?
Well, there's some obvious ones, aren't there?
West Tigers?
Well, the Titans.
Yeah, Titans.
Like, seriously.
Tin can operation there.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Like, how does this whole excuse that there are distractions and they're not distractions at Cronulla Beach, Bondi Beach, Manly Beach, like it's not an excuse.
Is that the argument? The life on the Gold Coast is too good.
Yeah. The glitz and the glam. I mean, I don't know about you blokes, but I don't know if it's that much worse. Yeah. Have you been to the Goldie recently? Is it that much? Is it suddenly become Las Vegas?
Yeah. Newcastle's got good beaches.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there are things to do everywhere.
Yeah.
So, they've been a constant disappointment, haven't they? They should be a better team than they are. Look, I think that the West Tigers and the drama they've given everybody over the years has been incredible. I mean, they look like they're taking, with Shane Richardson there as their CEO, they look like they're taking some good steps, and I think they're going to be. They had 9 wins this year so far. Yeah. They could be better next year as well. So.
Do you think there's a science to Richo's madness?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Geez, I've had some blues with Richo this year. It's been like the Galvin stuff was so full on.
The Galvin stuff was good rugby league drama.
Good fodder.
Yeah.
Jeez. And like, it was one Sunday morning I wrote something, but it was before 8 a.m. and Richo dropped a certain word at me like several times. Like, I said, Richo, it's not even 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning. Can you save that for later in the day? He kind of stopped, but he's been successful at clubs he's gone to, like Penrith, South. He had success at Cronulla to a degree, and I think that he's helping. He's definitely helping, and throughout my life, I think Benji's been one of the players I've loved watching more than any other.
Yeah.
Like, he's someone who you'd pay to go watch and cross the street. And
he changed the game too, Benji. Like,
changed the game.
Bringing that touch football shit over from New Zealand really changed the way they played.
Well, that's step, right?
Yeah.
I when I'm meeting new players and I'm interviewing them, one of the questions I'll often ask them is, who did you grow up and who did you idolise when you grew up? And they could be players from North Queensland, could be players from Penrith. The number of players who say Benji Marshall, second would be Sonny Bill.
Yeah. I thought the big boys say Sonny Bill.
Yeah. But even a random like Bronson Cherry told me Benji Marshall was his hero. Like, I mean, when you think about the impact he had, so there's definitely a lot of people willing Benji to succeed. He hasn't endeared himself to the media though. He was always someone I had to really work hard as a player with to have a relationship with. Like, really, it was never easy.
Yeah.
And I've had a relationship with him. I don't know where it's at the moment because of everything that's been happening recently. He's quite prickly.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's... But he should be used to the media. He was working in...
Well, he got a character reference from Dawn Fraser.
Did he?
That was that yarn when he got banged up down there in circular.
I might have covered that yarn.
Yeah. I love that Dawn Fraser.
Was that a McDonald's?
It was
McDonald's yarn. Yeah.
With Dawn Fraser. That's the West Tigers right there.
Yeah.
Dawn Fraser's giving Benji Marshall character references for a court date.
So
Benji's an interesting one, but I have to say, and I think the Tigers had a good season.
Yeah.
They
didn't win the wooden spoon.
They didn't win the wooden spoon.
They've done that for the last 3 seasons.
No spoon. They haven't finished 9th. That's their other thing they don't like to do.
Yeah.
But
it was looking a chance there for a second.
Well, it still might happen. I don't know. Yeah. But they've hopefully, I think the game is good if the West Tigers are flying,
Yeah.
I mean, that 05 win was one of the great premiership wins, you know?
Yeah.
And you want those guys.
It was basically an origin, that one, wasn't it?
It was unreal.
Yeah, because you had these two tortured clubs, Queensland versus Sydney. I just want to quickly, we're going to ask about your predictions for the season, and then we're going to wrap. But just before that, I want to ask this thing about the merger clubs. It's a uniquely rugby league thing that we have. The closest we're going to see in the future is probably going to be this West Bears thing, which is going to feel like two clubs.
That feels a bit schmozzly at the moment too.
But rugby league loves a schmozzle, and
yes.
I just noticed last year, 15-year anniversary of the premiership for St George, and maybe you reported this. 8 blokes turned up.
Yeah.
Do these merger clubs?
I thought it might have been less. I can't remember. Yeah.
Do these merger clubs have this? Do they have like a problem with they've never been able to come together as one?
Yeah. Look, well, West Tigers have won one competition, haven't they?
Yeah.
St George Illawarra Dragons won competition.
Yeah.
It feels uncomfortable, doesn't it? It feels like the mum and the dad who are staying together for the kids.
Yeah.
You know? That's the vibe you get from it. Like, you know, like there's not this chemistry that you want to see.
Yeah.
And
it's an outrageous idea, by the way, for the NRL to say Wollongong and St George, you're now one club.
Yeah.
And, you know, Far Western Sydney and Balmain, you're a club as well.
Well, during Super League times, I remember writing a story saying that there was going to be a merger, and it was being talked about, between the Roosters and the Dragons. Like, imagine if they were all sorts of stuff was being tossed up.
Cronulla and Rabbitohs?
Cronulla and Rabbitohs.
Yeah.
Good memory.
Sensational.
That might have been a Richo product. But there was all sorts of weird stuff. And the merger just doesn't feel right. You know, and there's always going to be old timers having a crack. You know, we want more magpie on that jumper. We want more black.
And someone's always going to be chipping in more money, importantly.
Like, what do you, I mean, the poor old Steelers, do you see much of that in what they're doing?
Such a shame, because that is a beautiful stadium, and the people of Wollongong,
passionate.
It's a captive audience. Yeah.
And when I was younger, they used to ship me off to either Campbelltown to cover Wests, because no one wanted to do it for the Herald, or Wollongong to cover the Steelers, and drive up the mountain in the fog afterwards.
Yeah.
And like I grew up covering a lot of those games, and the Alan McIndoes and these sort of Michael Bolts of the world, and all these old time Steeler players, and they were great. And they got swallowed up. St George, a great club, and it just doesn't feel like you said. It is very rugby league.
Illawarra is a very big catchment too. I just feel like it could sustain itself in this day and age, but what's been done is done. Although we have seen demergers in the Northern Eagles, haven't we?
That was like bring arch enemies together, like teams who hate each other. Like and with a political club like Manly, that's such a political club. Like the back then the Fulton influence, it was massive.
Well, there's still plenty of you to work with, Danny, and we appreciate you coming on here, and congratulations on your career, and here's to many more scoops and breaks.
Thank you.
This is going to be a two-parter now, so this will get us through finals. No, it was one of those yarns that we could have kept having. Thank you for joining us, and maybe we'll do it again next year.
I'd love to come back anytime.
Let's do it. Enjoy your finals football.
Thank you.